Hi, Nevaeh.
Hi, Robbie.
How are you?
Doing good?
Yeah, you want to be in my video?
Yes.
Yeah? Well, what should I do the video over?
A unicorn?
You want me to do a video on a unicorn?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do a video on a unicorn. What's up, everybody? Rob here, and welcome back to the Newb DM. As you can tell from that wonderful little intro video, today I'm going to be going over the unicorn. Now, before I begin talking about the unicorn, I do want to give a big shout out to my little niece Nevaeh for helping me out with that intro video. Hi, Nevaeh. So when she asked me to do this video, I was a little bit hesitant at first because thinking back on it, I don't really know much about the unicorn mythology. And once I started researching it, it kind of did a 180 because there's a lot of really interesting stuff about the mythology of the unicorn. Actually, that's not quite the correct phrasing, but we'll get to that. While I was researching the unicorn, I found two really interesting mysteries. Now, the first of those two mysteries is that the unicorn is one of the very few creatures in any kind of mythology that's a purely good creature. In most mythologies, you'll find the creatures are either an evil monster or they're just a creature that would maybe be considered neutral, not really good or bad. Throughout all of the unicorn's existence, though, it's been considered a purely good creature. Now, to touch on what I said just a few moments ago, the other mystery is that there isn't a myth for the unicorn. Now, by that I mean, there aren't any stories involving the unicorn. All of the information that we have about the unicorn are from past natural history books that claim the unicorn was a real creature in India. But that being said, you won't find any stories involving the unicorn and a hero going out and slaying an evil monster or anything like that. But we'll touch on the rest of that later. For now, let's talk about the unicorn. Now, pretty much everybody knows the unicorn is a horse with a single horn protruding from its forehead. So the unicorn can be found in quite a few different cultures. These include Mesopotamian, Chinese, Indian, Greek, and there's even speculation that it is included in some biblical texts. But as I said before, there aren't any stories in any of these cultures that involve the unicorn. They're purely referenced as an existing creature. So one of the earliest references to the unicorn is in images drawn of a single-horned creature. These are usually side images of either a horse or a goat, even the goat sometimes having a beard, that has only one horn protruding from its head. The issue here, though, is that, as I said, these drawings are from the side, or a profile view. It could be that these drawings were made as a perfect profile, meaning that there are two horns, but the second horn is just hidden behind the first horn. Now, while it's speculated whether or not these are unicorns or if it's just a perfect profile, the main reason that these are important is because it's thought that along with these drawings, as well as sightings of other single-horned creatures such as the rhinoceros, these are what brought about the idea of the existence of the unicorn. As a side note, along with the more you know kind of idea, there is a difference between a horn and an antler. A horn is a protrusion from an animal's head that has a bony core but with a keratin sheath on the outside. Now, typically these horns are not branched and they are permanently fixed to the creature. An antler, on the other hand, is purely made of bone, can be branched, and is typically shed about once a year and then regrown. Now, while the unicorn does exist in many ancient civilizations, it did seem to play a more prominent role in the Middle Ages. Now, in the Middle Ages, they still thought that the unicorn was a purely good creature. They thought that not only was it very fast and incredibly difficult to catch, but the only person that could really summon and catch a unicorn was a maiden, and it was said that maidens were sent out in search of unicorns to bring back to kings. It was also said that unicorns were very good at taking care of their domain, and they would find tainted bits of water, and they would stick the tip of their horn in this water, and it would purify the water, cleaning up the drinking source for all of the creatures in the surrounding area. Now this is pretty important because there were cups that were said to be made of unicorn horn that people would sell to rich noblemen in the Middle Ages. Typically, these cups were bought by people who had fear of being poisoned, so they would drink from these cups in hopes that the horn would actually purify any poisons inside of their drink. Unfortunately, these cups typically weren't made of unicorn horn, and they were actually made of either the horn of a rhinoceros or the horn of a narwhal. That's pretty much the main information known about the unicorn because unicorns aren't real, so they couldn't be thoroughly studied. So that being said, that actually leads us to a third mystery, and it's why did the idea of a unicorn last so long? By that I mean there aren't any mythological tales of the unicorn to be passed on from one generation to the next. On the other hand, the unicorn wasn't real. There are plenty of other creatures that have existed throughout history that are currently now extinct that many people haven't heard of. So why is it that a creature that doesn't have any story behind it to be passed along and also didn't exist still exists today and is widely known by nearly everyone? So while we really can't compare the myth to the D&D lore, we can at least look at what was believed of the unicorn and compare that to the D&D lore. So in the D&D universe, unicorns were believed to be created by benevolent gods to protect sacred places. Typically, it was gods of either the forest or the Feywild who would create the unicorn to protect their lands. Now, not only would the unicorn calm the land and calm the creatures that lived in the area, they were actually served by the Fey creatures themselves, including creatures such as satyrs. Unicorns were also a sign of a god's blessing, and oftentimes if you found, say, a paladin riding a unicorn, you would realize that that paladin had the total support of his god. So what that tells us is that the mythology as well as what was believed of the unicorn are pretty much the same. They both see them as magical healing creatures that were known as being purely good and taking care of the world around them. Now, fighting stats are a little bit unique. As for the melee damage, it's pretty much exactly what you would expect from a horse with a horn. It can trample you, or it can gore you with its horn. Now, the unicorn does have some magical ability, but most of its spells are around the area of either healing spells or spells involved with good and evil. And that's pretty much it for this video. While I would like to say a lot more about the unicorn, most of what is known about the unicorn are just speculations that people believed. There are no stories to compare, so we really have to use the little bit of information that was given. Either way, it was still a lot of fun to make this video. I mean, there's a creature that has lasted throughout history without having any kind of mythology behind it, and it's purely good. As always, I hope you've enjoyed. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at @TheNoobDM. And as always, have fun.